Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Creed 3, starring Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, Jonathan Majors, Wood Harris, and Felicia Rashad, directed by the star of the movie, Michael B. Jordan. Now, before I get into this movie, I went twice to this one. First time was in IMAX, and I felt the punches, and same with the Dolby Theater, I'll say. But And I've come a long way since I've done the Rocky series with Creed after Creed 2 was coming out. And and you can check that out on my archives somewhere. Let's see if this holds up with the other two. Let's get into it. We open with the flashback of a young Damian Anderson as an 18-year-old picking up his friend who happens to be a 15-year-old Adonis Creed in 2002 in Los Angeles as he sneaks out of the house after his mother Marianne, returned by Felicia Rashad, takes a peek to see if Adonis is asleep. While he takes it and goes out to a place where Dame, as he's going to be called for the rest of the movie, which is what Damien is called for most of the movie, gets prepared for a boxing match where he knocks someone out in the first round, and he bets money on it and wins as they drive to a convenience store where Adonis recognizes a man named Leon whom looked a lot over Adonis and Dame as kids and beats the daylights out of him, which is a good opening scene that is explained better later in the film. As an adult, Adonis, returned by Michael B. Jordan, fights Ricky Conlon again in a boxing match. Remember Ricky Conlon from the first film? And notices his weakness, and he beats him for real. This time, unlike in the first Creed, and in the audience, his wife Bianca, returned by Tessa Thompson, who's come a long way since being in Creed, where she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to a couple of other movies. And Little Duke, returned by Wood Harris as he celebrates his victory before he retires from boxing, which is brutal to watch in a big format as well as the IMAX theaters. And I felt every single punch as the actors did in the loud surround sound system. And I thought that was a great thing at home. At home, Adonis hangs on out with his deaf daughter Amara, and Bianca works as a producer from home. And I like these characters in this family as they have chemistry. Adonis runs a boxing gym where he trains Felix Chavez along with Little Duke and Felix's mother Laura. And as he walks out of his gym, he sees he has lunch with an adult Dame played by Jonathan Majors, who's the best opponent in this series, in my opinion, and as he commands the screen with his presence, whereas in Ant-Man, he was underdeveloped, but here he's better developed than Kang, I'll say, ever was in Ant-Man. The fact that Sylvester Stallone isn't in this movie as Rocky Balboa is probably a great choice, in my opinion, as this movie works great without him. While having lunch with Adonis, Damon wants to be a heavyweight champ, and by champ I mean champion, and Adonis helps him by training at his gym, and we get a flashback of Dame while Adonis beat up Leon, coming up in a blurry image with a gun, while we get back to present day, and Marianne had a stroke off screen, and Bianca and Adonis wants to help out in case she has another stroke, which is an interesting thing to bring up later in the film. Adonis talks with Little Duke about having Damon in the gym, while he doesn't owe him anything, while Amara gets picked on by some bully that ripped her paper at school, so she punches the bully while Adonis wants her to fight, while Bianca wants to talk about her feelings. And I'm in agreement with Adonis. She has to stand up to the bully, and this makes real life sense. And the way this movie is shot is pretty great, in my opinion. Dane comes to the Creed household as they catch up. Bianca says she's taking a break from performing in her concerts, to protect her hearings and her ears, and Adonis shows Dame around the house as Dame asks, to become a heavyweight champ, just like that. But Adonis wants to help, but he's not a pro boxer, as he jumps to conclusions, and he is still training as the next day comes. Adonis wants to talk about his past, or doesn't want to, excuse me, with the group home while Bianca wants to know about it. And we move on to Dame sparring with Felix and beats him up out of temper. And Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors do quite work quite well with each other, and the baggage Adonis has about his past is very well done, as we learn more about it later in the film. Adonis trains Amara to box like her father while she watches her father's own fights on YouTube. And I'm getting the impression she wants to fight like her father, while Bianca wants her to express her feelings, and she's great in this movie. Adonis and Dame are at Bianca's party for her music, while we see Victor Drago. Remember him from the last film, the Creed 2? If not, I don't blame you. He was Ivan Drago's son from the last movie, and I was shocked they had mutual respect for each other after because they hated each other in the last movie. And I wondered what happened to Ivan Drago after the last film, while Dame tells Bianca about Adonis's past as Victor gets his wrist broken, and Felix has nobody to fight with Adonis as Adonis wants Dame to fight with Felix, as people love an underdog storyline like what happened between Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed, aka Adonis's dad, in the first movie. And this script makes underdog story sense. Showtime advertises the Felix versus Dame fight. As we get there, Adonis, Bianca, and Amara arrive at, and Adonis comforts him before the fight ever begins. And Dame gets booed at while Felix gets a very big cheer because Felix is the underdog. And the fight begins with Dame punching Felix in the shoulder and kind of kicks him in the ref. Wasn't watching, but what he did was Dame elbows Felix in the face, and it makes me think that he's a brutal fighter. And it kind of shows also here in Ant-Man as well, as Jonathan Majors can fight. And Felix makes Dame take out a tooth while taking off the mouthpiece, and it forces Dame to knock out and give Felix a concussion as he was bleeding, and Dame becomes the new champ, and Adonis isn't happy with Dame because he nearly killed Felix. And Little Duke advises Adonis to stay away from the gym, and this scene's sound was groundbreaking both times I saw this movie in IMAX and the Dolby's Theater. Marianne gets the letters from Dame to gave to Adonis and showed them to Adonis, and has some harsh words with her as he can't see Dame is becoming the enemy, which we know from the trailer. I mean, come on. As Adonis visits Dame at the beach and tells him he betrayed him, as Dame doesn't need Adonis anymore, and he threatens to take everything and punches Adonis in the face and decides to walk away. And this scene worked absolutely tremendously, as it may be showing Dame's true colors while Bianca talks with Adonis and tells him to open up, and he doesn't want to remember his past, and this reveal was obvious timing. But I'm going with the movie at this point, while Adonis goes to the convenience store where he got in the fight in the opening scene, and I'm enjoying my time watching the movie up to this point. Marianne has another stroke, and Adonis visits her and says his goodbyes, meaning she'll probably pass away, which she does. Spoiler alert. While she thinks Adonis is her father Apollo as she passes away, and it made me sad, at the same time it shocked the hell out of me. And the funeral was some pretty shots, as well as the sad scene of Marianne passing away. Adonis confesses to Bianca about Leon and how he was in a group home, and confesses he snapped by beating him up as Dame came up with a gun, as Dame got caught and Adonis got away as he believes it was him. And that's the movie's message, which is friends stick together. And Adonis tells Bianca he has to fight him and goes on live TV and tells everyone who Adonis is as a coward. And Adonis challenges Dame for the heavyweight championship, which is a great way to kick some ass. Adonis trains to beat up Dame, as Dame does the same about Adonis, and Adonis has Victor Drago as a sparring partner. And it made me think of the last movie, and we see Adonis was telling the truth about running away from a crime scene and decides to do what he does best, which is getting up to train and fight once again, which is a great as a training Rocky training in the first movie, and that's something I like to call montage, folks. It's brilliant. As Adonis gets prepared for the fight, he comes out and cheers with the crowd as every single one of these people at Dodger Stadium in LA are here for Adonis to win the battle against Dame, and this final battle is called the Battle of Los Angeles. And we begin the fight with them punching one another as Adonis starts off scared but improves himself to swing against Dame for the first 2 rounds. And we see what they can imagine without the crowd as they're quickly already on round 11, which is an interesting choice as it ends with the two boxers punching each other in the face. And we move on quickly to round 12, which I believe is the final round. I'm not an expert on boxing, but and and this gets even more brutal. At one point, Dame punches Adonis in the stomach, and he gets up when Bianca says, "Get up, D." And he gets up on the count of 9 and have one more fight, and Adonis knocks out Dame and wins the heavyweight championship by knocking Dame out. And we get the Rocky theme going as he won the match, and they celebrate as Adonis visits Dame and says the past was not his fault. And Amara practices boxing with Adonis with spirit. And the climax had heart, spirit, and was absolutely amazing. At the end of the day, 3 movies out of 3 movies, but we'll see what I rate this movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.6 out of 10. I was okay without Rocky in this entire movie, as director and star Michael B. Jordan does a good job on holding the movie without Sylvester Stallone in the movie. While the movie was shot, it worked great in my opinion. The movie was beautifully shot and made as it was emotional in one scene, and I felt every single punch they were throwing at each other in the big format screening as well as the IMAX screening. I do like seeing and being around these characters once more, and this has been 3 on this trilogy, as I really liked and gave this the same rating as Creed 1 and Creed 2, and this is a solid recommendation. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for Creed 3, and until if we ever get to Creed 4, my ring's outside.